يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون وقال كذلك يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا فإن الأصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My respected brothers and sisters, you know, this is February. Yesterday was Groundhog's Day. It's a great movie by Bill Murray. Never seen it, know what I'm saying? You should check it out. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Islamic history in the United States. And sometimes this history is overlooked. So we just wanted to share a little bit about a man who was born in 1904 in Texas. And his name was Walter Graves. And Walter Graves, in his lifetime, he had something like 50 mechanical patents. Like, he was just like a genius. So one of the first actual machine guns ever designed in the United States, he actually did it when he was like, I don't know, 12 or something. So his father died when he was an infant, and so him and his older brother, they started to they started like a little business where they would go and repair farming equipment down in Texas. And so that's what they would do. And they would also make baseball bats, because they was very skilled in that kind of technical stuff for that time. And so when he was a teenager, he actually got a job for the railroad company. And the railroad company at the time, the people had to manually lock boxcars together. And so a lot of times people died and get crushed between the boxcars. So he invented the coupling that automatically seals together, that they still use on trains today. He invented that. And he sold the patent for that for like $50, just so that he could get some money to get out of Texas. And so he leaves Texas, he goes to what they call the Ohio River Valley. He was living in Indiana. And at the time, they had this group of Muslims that followed something called the Ahmadiyya movement. In the 20s, the followers of Ghulam Ahmed, they had came to the United States. There was one in particular, his name was Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, and he was an Islamic scholar. So he started missionary work. And in the beginning, he worked in the Arab community in Detroit. He helped found one of the first masjids in Detroit, which we know even today, Michigan has a high concentration of Arabs. And so those Arabs, they was working at the Ford plant making cars, and they didn't have a masjid, and then this Islamic scholar shows up. They never heard of Ahmadiyism because they wasn't from India. They just knew that he was an Islamic scholar. So they all got together, they put together this masjid. It was a man, an Afro-Caribbean brother named Deuce, Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Sadiq, and the Syrian community. They really worked together to put together this first masjid in Detroit. But then Muhammad Sadiq, he started kind of preaching the Ahmadiyya message, so they ended up giving him the boot. So, he landed with the black folks. So he starts teaching black people in the late teens and early 20s Islam. I mean, you know, we might say if you're an Islamic scholar and you're looking at some of the teachers of the Ahmadiyya movement, you're definitely going to get caught up. But if you're talking about people from the black community making salat, making wudu, reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, them was the Muslims. Historically, there was some good Muslim brothers. They all had Muslim names. So, Walter Graves, he joined this movement. And so he started working with one of the local, you know, African American deities. And he started teaching them Arabic. But the brother, he was a genius. As we know, he made a machine gun. He patented a machine gun when he was like 12 or something. So he picked up the Arabic language really fast, so much so that his teacher was like, look, man, you already passed me. You need to go learn with them foreigners up in Ohio. So he moves from where he was at to Cleveland, and he studies one-on-one with one of the teachers. He learns the Arabic language and those types of things. He ends up opening up a mosque. So his teacher, his Indian teacher, moved back to India. He opens up a mosque, and it's very important for American history, for Muslim American history. He's the first person recorded to open up a mosque that had Jumuah on Friday, had weekend class for the kids, had a Talim service on Sunday, and had a halal meat store. He opened up this mosque in 1928. It was called First Mosque Cleveland. And then in 1931, he was like, man, I ain't with this Ahmadiyya stuff no more. Because he could read Arabic. He was like, wait a minute, Holy Quran said Prophet Muhammad is Khatam al-Nabiyyin. He's the seal of the prophets. So if you the seal, another prophet can't come after that. Because it's cut off. So y'all trying to tell me that there's another prophet after the Prophet Muhammad? I ain't going for that. Plus, and you know, at the time, India it's still a poor country. So they was taking a lot of the resources from American Muslims and sending it all back to India. They were like, man, we got problems here. So in 1931, he reopened the mosque as a Sunni mosque. And it's still First Mosque Cleveland. It's still, to this day, you have two sister masajid, one in Pittsburgh, they hardcore Salafis now, and one in Cleveland. These was both mosques started as Ahmadiyya mosques. They were sister mosques, and they both became Sunni mosques, right? And the formula that he had is what, like, you know, growing up Muslim, this was every masjid in the country was going to have weekend school for the kids, Jumuah on Friday, Talim service on Sunday, meat store next door around the corner. This became the blueprint for American Muslims. But it was started by, he changed the name from Walter Graves to Wali Akram. And he was one of the first, he was the second American to ever make Hajj. He made Hajj in 1957. This is prior to we always talk Malcolm X made Hajj in 64. We'd be like, that was the first one, but it wasn't. So we'd be like, everything started with, nah. So these brothers, they predate what we think of when we think about Islamic history in America. Like we start with the nation. These brothers was Sunni Muslims before Elijah Muhammad started the nation. Elijah Muhammad started the nation in 1933. These guys had a mosque in 1931. Know what I'm saying? The mosque is still there to this day. One of the oldest mosques in the country. The brother, he died at age 90. So he lived from 1904 to 1994. He had 13 kids, and he's just one of the biggest Muslim families. We think the Muhammad family did. But he got one of the biggest Muslim families in the United States, because him and his wife had 13 kids. They didn't play back in them days, and then all of the subsequent generations. But one of the things that people don't know about him, Hajj Raleigh Akram, there used to be a book when I was young. This book was called, and it was in like every Muslim library. The book was called Arabic Made Easy. Arabic, like you would go to people's house, they would have the little white book, Arabic Made Easy, you know what I'm saying? He wrote that book in 1944. So my whole life, I thought that book was written by an immigrant brother. Like you see, I mean, his name was Wali Akram or something. It wasn't like his name was like, you know, Washington or something. You see Arabic Made Easy by El-Hajj Wali Akram. Yeah, okay, he's one of the brothers, but he's not one of the brothers, you know what I'm saying? But actually, he was both. So he wrote this book in 1944. His whole life was about teaching the Arabic language. He really felt so there's two figures in American history, black figures, that never get talked about. And they represent American black Muslims. El-Hajj Wali Akram, who was kind of like born in Texas, never lived overseas, learned Arabic, started a masjid, you know what I'm saying? Ran his mosque. But he still was like if you ever been in Cleveland, the Sunni Muslims, they call his mosque the church mosque. So yeah, they only go there on Friday, you know. You know, you go to church, the Christians go to church on Sunday, then you might not see them no more until next week. That's what they say about that. Because you know, the Sunni Muslims say, you got to come every day and pray. You got to pray 5 times a day. It's the Sunnah. And I'm not saying it's not. It's kind of hard, though, when you got, like, job, family, you know what I'm saying? To just be like, I'm going to put everything on hold 5 times a day and pray. Not saying you should pray 5 times a day, but to be able to do it in the mosque, you got to be an imam or something. Like, that got to be your job. You know what I'm saying? So, El-Hajj Wali Akram, they converted from Christianity. So it's like the weekend is going to be on mosque time. Other than that, y'all need to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Y'all go to work and come see me on Friday. I got the meat store, I'm going to be right here. So you have him, very important figure though. Then you have James Lomax Bey. And James Lomax Bey was born in South Carolina. And he came up a different way. He didn't come up through the Ahmadiyas. He came up through Moore Science Temple. So if I was to tell people, there was a group of people who claim to be Muslim, and their leader claimed to be a prophet, and he was a womanizer. And when the allegations of womanizing started coming out, his number 2 person left and went overseas and then became an Orthodox Muslim. Everybody be like, oh, you talking about Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, and the Nation of Islam? But I'm not. I'm talking about Moore Science Temple, Noble Drew Ali, and James Lomax Bey. So James Lomax Bey was the number 2 person He ran the biggest mosque, like Malcolm X ran the New York mosque. That was the biggest mosque for the Nation of Islam. It made more money than any other mosque in the country. James O'Max Bay ran the Detroit mosque for the Moral Science Temple. It was at that time, New York was the #1 city of industry in the country. So this mosque, everybody who went there, they worked at Ford Motors or Pontiac. So they all had money. They could pay dues. They was opening up businesses. So James O'Max Bay, because he was in Detroit, he starts running into Muslims. He like, Salaam alaikum. They like, wa alaik. You're not really Muslim, brother. He's like, why not? I got this red fez on. I ain't eating no pork. So he started hearing that Moral Science Templeism and Islam was different. So he writes a letter. He says, we leaving the Moral Science. What's going to happen if your #1 money-making mosque says that they going solo? Same thing always happens. You know what I'm saying? It's a fight. Y'all not just about to leave and take the money with you. You know what I'm saying? So some people lost their lives. James Lomax Bay, he moves to Turkey. They still have articles that you can Google. Say Negroes in Turkey digging ditches. So they went to Turkey. They was like, we're going to go there and we're going to get some farmland and we're going to be independent Muslims. And the Turks was like, nah, y'all can dig ditches over here because we not even, this is in the Ataturk days. They wasn't that Muslim, it was secular Turkey. They was like, you Muslim, so what? So he left there, he went to Egypt. When James O'Max Bay went to Egypt, he was sponsored by the YMMA, Young Men's Muslim Association, for 6 years. And he changed the name to Sheikh Muhammad Izzuddin. He took the name at the same time. It was one of the big scholars of Al-Azhar. His name was Muhammad Izzuddin. He was well known by the Egyptian people they loved. So he took that name. He came back and he started opening up these centers called the Universal Ad-Din Allahi Universal Arabic Association. Ad-Din Allahi Universal Arabic Association. He opened up the first one in 1935. And by the time he died, it was like 17 of them, right? When he was alive and Al-Hajj Wali Akram was alive, and they had another dude in New York named Sheikh Delwa Faisal, they got together and they formed a group called United Islamic Societies of America. This was the first umbrella group before Islam. Islam stuff was in the 60s, 70s. This thing started in the 40s. But they was all black, so it didn't last long. They had a couple, I think by the 3rd annual convention, they broke up. You know what I'm saying? Like to be like the Temptations or something. But the problem, it wasn't a problem, but you had some of the brothers that came through the Moral Science Temple. So they had more like a allegiance to black identity. And their sheikh studied in Egypt. So like his outlook on Islam was like the Arab outlook. Not in a bad way, but I'm saying like, he was a classically trained guy. He giving the football in Arabic, everybody like, don't even know what he's saying. But he was all about social justice, Black Lives Matter type stuff. Wally Akram and them, they came through the Ahmadiyya movement. The Ahmadiyas, you could Google them today, they always gonna be patriotic. So, you have one group that was more like white man is the devil, and you had another group that was kind of like, we trying to get a job. So they had different views, which is fine. This is like some black folks, that's what we deal with. You got, you got Marcus Garvey and you got W.E.B. Du Bois. You got W.E.B. Du Bois and you got Booker T. Washington. You got Malcolm X, you got Martin Luther King. Like, you're gonna have different flavors that everybody gotta follow, or to pick a flavor, they ain't gotta follow either one, but those flavors might not necessarily jive. So they tried to make it work, but one of them was like, okay, y'all a little bit too patriotic. And the other was like, man, if y'all don't take them. So the whole thing, when you go to the East Coast, you see Muslims and those. That came from the search for Muslim identity, which started with the Moorish Science Temple of America. So Moorish Science Temple of America in the 1920s, it was like, we not Negroes, we Moors. We don't dress like white folks, we dress like our heritage. And so that's like what they call in anthropology, cultural revolution. So a cultural revolutionary is gonna be like, I'm about to throw on a dashiki. Somebody who's not into cultural revolution like the Black Panthers, they didn't wear like African garb. They wore like urban clothing. So they was at odds sometimes with people who was born a cultural tip. Islamically speaking, we got the same thing for Black American Muslims. You got some Muslims be like, you ain't wearing a thobe, you look like a kafir. And I remember one time we had a brother, famous brother, I ain't gonna say his name though. He was visiting the area and it was Eid time. I go to the older brothers, I said, man, we need to have the brother get cooked by for Eid. You know what I'm saying? He's a sheikh. The older brother was like, man, come on, man. I don't want to say he going for an Arab identity, but can he go to Macy's? If he shop at Macy's, if he shop at Macy's and say everything he said, I agree 100%. But if he come up in here looking like that, I can't get with it. You know what I'm saying? So those kind of things, they have a legacy in the country. So we should never think that, okay, this is the first time this done come up.